Hey everyone, how's it going? So, Grimer isn't exactly known as one of the marquee Pokemon from Generation 1. And there's good reason for that. I mean, design-wise, it's literally a pile of sludge, but stats-wise, it actually has really good base attack for a first form and good base HP, but nothing super great other than that. I mean, its defense is fine, but it's slow, and it doesn't have great special. And then you look at its move pool, and like many other poison Pokemon we have covered, it isn't a big move pool, but it does learn some good moves. However, considering it has not great special, not sure how much it can take advantage of those moves. So, yeah, this is probably going to be pretty tough, especially when you consider that it starts off with just Pound and Disable, neither of which will be all that effective against Brock and his rock Pokemon. Now, in terms of how I know when it's time to battle Brock, there is the Light Years Junior trainer, and I try beating him. If I can't beat him, what chance will I beat Brock? And the good thing about this trainer is that the Diglett gives quite a bit of experience points and faints rather quickly. Now, once you get a little up there in level, the Sandshrew takes a little bit of a while to either beat or to be beaten by. And you can see here, I'm very close to leveling up, so I am going to go in the forest and get that one more level. But I'll do this again and again and again until I win, because if I can't beat this trainer with ground Pokemon, the chances I would actually beat rock Pokemon is 0. So at level 14, I have my first battle versus Brock, and my expectations weren't all that high. I'm taking back 5 damage, which isn't very good, and I'm dealing next to nothing. There is no chance I'd have enough pounds, even if I somehow had infinite HP. Well, I guess eventually I would struggle, so maybe then it would work, but you know what I mean here. I simply just cannot win at this level. We're gonna have to level up a lot. So, at level 17, and Grimer doesn't level up all that fast, we finally pass our first checkpoint. We're able to beat the Geodude. Unfortunately, we don't have all that much health remaining, and so by the time we get to Onix, we can disable things when he uses Bide, so we don't have to attack. But even with some critical hits and some Bide luck, at the end of the day, I'm only able to get it to half HP, which isn't actually that bad. Considering this is my first try at Onix, getting it to half HP is better than getting it to a quarter or something. But there's no award for half beating Brock's final Pokemon. It only took to level 19 in order to beat Brock, and there's really no interesting strategy here, unfortunately. Grimer is one of the many Pokemon that just needs, well, okay, there's a couple things to mention. I mean, we do just need to use Pound, but it is important I don't get defense curls too early, so I do some decent damage, and although critical hits aren't likely, getting 1 or 2 really helps. But then versus Onix, we just need really good luck. It went for Screech a bunch of times and then got a crit tackle, which is actually good. If it got a non-crit tackle, it would do way more. And you can see that it does 12. And that's why when it uses Bide, I just keep going for Pound. I just need to do as much damage to Onix as I possibly can and hope the Bide turns, Screech turns, everything works out. And it did with 12 HP to spare, which isn't bad. But yeah, I wouldn't say this is the most consistent Brock battle of all time, but at level 19, I will more than take it. And we can finally move on to the rest of the game, where Grimer, at the very least, won't be resisted by everything. But considering our next level up move is at level 30, we're also not really getting any help anytime soon. But first, I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that when it's time to make dinner, cooking can take a really long time and be a huge hassle, lots of cleanup, and ordering out is just so expensive nowadays. Well, good news, today's sponsor, Factor, may be a solution to these issues. Factor provides fresh, ready-to-eat meals that are never frozen, and they are chef-created and dietitian-approved. You can have them ready in just 2 minutes. There are 35 plus options a week, and various categories such as Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, Vegan, or Vegetarian. But in addition to these great dinner meals, Factor now offers breakfast, lunch, snacks, and beverages. So no matter what time it is, there's a Factor meal for you. Preparing a factor meal is so simple. They come once a week in an insulated box and you just need to put them in the fridge and they last for a week's time. You can then take out the meals, and while you can put them in the oven, they are just as good when you put them in the microwave for 2 to 3 minutes, and then you can put them on a plate and you're ready to have a delicious chef-created meal like this crusted chicken I had from Factor. For me, the biggest advantage of Factor is just how quickly you have a good meal. Both cooking and even ordering in takes a long time, while Factor only takes a couple of minutes, so I can get right back to my stressful job of playing Pokemon games. If Factor seems like something you'd be interested in, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code JROSE50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code JROSE50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month of orders. I figured Rival 2 would be a little easier than Misty, and we're at level 21, only 2 levels higher, and we get really good luck in our first battle, only 1 sand attack. Consider that Grimer is pretty slow, so Pidgeotto has plenty of turns to attack. Unfortunately, we end up missing enough that we only have 1 HP for Squirtle, turns into 3 when we level up, but that's not going to be enough. Thankfully, it will only take 1 more attempt for Grimer to win, even though it's 2 levels higher than Pidgeotto. And this is simply a function of Grimer not getting Mega Punch. If it did, probably we would have won on our first try because Mega Punch does way more than Pound. Being stuck with a weak move like Pound into Cerulean is really unfortunate, and if Grimer ends up with a not great time, it struggles versus Brock and then having to use Pound until the SSN where we get everyone's favorite move, Body Slam, it's going to be a big factor. In an ideal world, we would fight Misty with something better than Pound, but this isn't an ideal world. That's all we have. So Staryu takes 3 hits. We level up to level 25, but it's just simply not going to work. X-Defend and the critical hit really hurt, but I think you can tell easily from that battle this just isn't the right time, which is unfortunate because going back to battle Lieutenant Surge, which is what you're gonna have to do if you don't beat Misty, wastes a little bit of time. Not a ton of time, but it does waste time. Now we're gonna battle Rival 3, and we have Body Slam, so yay. Body Slam plus Pound knocks out Pidgeotto. Body Slam knocks out Raticate. But one thing you'll notice, and this is not a good sign, is that Grimer is being outsped by everything, even Wartortle. It's a literal turtle, and we're being outsped by it. I mean, I guess a pile of goo moves slower than a turtle, so accurate, but unfortunate. Nonetheless, I don't think the speed is going to make a huge difference versus Misty now that we're at level 27 with Body Slam. At this point, we're doing, I would say, triple the damage we were doing before, and Starmie was only a 3-hit KO. Easy victory, but it's not as if we haven't been playing for a while. In terms of real time, we had beaten Mewtwo already. So I always like to use that run as kind of the litmus test. But yeah, the Mewtwo run took 44 minutes, and this run in real time is at 44 minutes. So not a great sign for Grimer, but then again, I don't think we are really going to compare Grimer to Mewtwo. But I do think it gives you an idea of just how long some of these Pokemon actually take to get through the early stages of the game. And we're not even at the halfway point yet. Before we can get to that point, we have to battle everyone's favorite trainer, Whitgag, or Whitgog, as he is sometimes known. And yeah, there's really no strategy here. We need to use Body Slam, hope for paralysis, and hope we don't get hit by self-destruct. It took quite a few attempts for that to happen. Like 5 or 6 attempts, which is a lot considering the level we're at. But one thing, if you recall Grimer's move list, that you'll notice is that it really doesn't get a lot of moves to deal with rock Pokemon like Geodude and Graveler. One move that won't help is Thunderbolt, but we are going to get it and we can use it. First, we have to actually beat Surge, but anytime you're skipping Surge until after Celadon, he is going to be trivial, or you will wait long enough until he is trivial. In our case, it was just simply a matter of not having access to Cut. Otherwise, I would have beaten him before Misty. This is one of the biggest... I'm not even sure how to phrase this. It's not really an annoyance. It's more of like a retroactive wish list. Like, if only Surge could have been battled before Misty, they still could have made Cut needed in order to get out of Cerulean. And I think making Cut required for Surge was actually a really smart game design decision. But for solo runs, it limits our routing abilities, which kind of sucks. But again, from a casual game design perspective, requiring Cut there is what tells the player, oh, I need this thing, and oh, this is where I use it, which is really smart, simple game design that doesn't hold your hand and yet clearly tells you what to do. And also, Generation 1 is probably the least restrictive generation in terms of routing. In a lot of other games, you pretty much have to do every gym in order, with maybe a gym or two that you can swap or one you can skip. And speaking of gyms we usually skip, but this time we're not, the next thing we're going to do is battle Erica for a bunch of reasons. Unfortunately, it went really, really poorly for something I should have anticipated, but didn't. Wrap. Gen 1 Wrap is one of the cheapest moves ever made. Sure, it can miss 15% of the time, but if it doesn't, you don't get to attack. Now, why was I battling Erica? Well, I have two other options. I can go to Lavender, but I can't complete the Pokemon Tower without the Silph Scope. In order to get the Silph Scope, we need to beat Giovani. I haven't talked about this in ages, but one thing that you can do, but I opt not to do in these runs, is skip Giovani entirely and use the Pokédoll in order to run away from Ghost Marowak. Now, this is a bug, glitch, oversight, and so I've opted, because we don't really use those types of skips, not to include those in solo runs. But this is a really good example of how it would make a pretty big difference, because I definitely would go to Rival 4 first. Instead, I basically have to rely on Wrap missing or a paralysis from Body Slam. But then, right after that, Tangela has Bind, which I never really think about because Tangela is usually so slow, but Grimer is even slower. So what I decide to do is battle the trainers in Erica's gym. With pre-evolved Pokemon, you're probably going to have to do this at some point, and most of these Pokemon do not have Wrap or Bind, so it's a great place to gain money and, more importantly, experience points. But that's not the only way I'm going to gain experience points. I'm going to go into the Rocket Hideout, but I'm not going to battle Giovani. Instead, I'm going to actually go to the first floor basement, even though you can just dig out here, because by beating this guy with his 2 Grimer, I will unlock that door and therefore be able to take a shortcut right back to the 4th floor basement. My hope is I've gained enough levels, maybe not to outspeed Victory Bell, but at least to outspeed Tangela. And that should make the battle a little bit more consistent, and once we've beaten Erica, Giovani should be pretty easy, while if I were to battle him now, it would probably be a nightmare. Speaking of which, will Erica be a nightmare? After battling a few more trainers in her gym, as expected, I don't outspeed Victory Bell, but hopefully with just one miss, I'm able to get a paralysis or something. Unfortunately, I don't get it quick enough in the first or second battle, or third, or 4th. Yeah, this is probably a bad idea. Alright, time to go battle Rival 4, I guess. I mean, there's not a lot else to really do. Other than beating Giovani, which would be tough, even though I do get Sludge here, which is my most powerful poison move. It is the most powerful poison move in the entire game. So that's kind of cool, and that will help versus Erica. Even though it does neutral damage, it does same type attack bonus neutral damage. And I actually lose to Rival 4. I lose to Rival 4. Holy mackerel, when's the last time a Pokemon has lost 11 levels higher? I mean, I then reset after getting hit by Sand Attack, but that is technically 2 losses to Rival 4. This is not looking good for our pal Grimer. Not good at all. In our 3rd battle, unsurprisingly, we win, but all I can do at this point is battle Erica. We've run out of mandatory trainers, other than some of the channelers, I guess. I doubt I'll outspeed, but at least if I hit with Sludge, maybe it'll do enough damage. So, of course, Wrap hits, and it lasts 4 turns, then Wrap hits, then Wrap misses, and Sludge does about half, which is what I was hoping for. So I just need 2 misses, and then I outspeed Tangela, and then the battle is over. Vileplume has nothing. against Grimer. So it was just two 15% misses, and I figured that at my level I had enough HP that shouldn't be too unlikely. But holy mackerel, Grimer really struggled in a section I didn't think it would. And now it's going to do well in a section you may not have expected it to, but because of Mega Drain, it's going to do really well against Giovani. All we have to do now is use Mega Drain, at least for the first two Pokemon. But when it comes to Kangaskhan, we do have Sludge. And that's a very powerful, well, it's not very powerful, but it's powerful enough that it's a two-shot. And now all we have to do is make it through the Pokemon Tower again. Or, well, actually, we barely made it through, but you know what I mean. We have to visit it again. And then we're on to the second half of the game. Now, you might think, let's just go battle Koga, and that would work if there weren't this juggler with the Hypno and Drowsy. And while theoretically I could beat him, I actually lost twice, and I figured, okay, that's not a good sign. So I decided to go to Silph Company and just get some levels. Silph Co is a really good place to gain levels, and look at that, I'm level 45 now. And I do two-shot Pidgeot. Now I can Body Slam Growlithe, although you might be wondering why I'm not using Sludge. That easily would have one-shot Execute, but I don't have it. I'm stuck with Body Slam, and I actually make it all the way to Blastoise. Unfortunately, it outspeeds me. But there's a way we could stop that all from happening. We're going to dig out and battle Koga. And if you want to know why it is I don't have Sludge anymore, well, you won't find out right now. I mean, listen, most of you, this isn't your first video. You know exactly why I don't have Sludge. But in case you don't, you'll find out really soon. Unfortunately, without Sludge, this is also a little tougher. But we get some pretty good luck with Poison Gas twice, since the jugglers just attack randomly. And then I do have a Hyper Potion, so we can go use it and battle Koga once I can manage to, at 4 times speed, get behind him so I can talk to him. Alright, so against Coughing, I'm just going to use Thunderbolt. Then I use Harden. The reason I do that is because I'm worried about Self-Destruct. So I'm actually using Harden for its intended effect. Don't worry, this won't happen for long. Unfortunately, all will be useless if Weezing gets a critical hit, which is not very likely, so we probably would have tanked that. Unfortunately, it takes another attempt for us to win, and on this attempt, we get Self-Destruct, and you can see how little it does to Grimer, so yatta. But here's the thing. And I know for most of you, this is like your 50th video. Thank you for watching so many of these. And so you probably figured out that the reason I don't have Sludge anymore is that I found Body Slam as a normal move would be a little bit more versatile when being paired with Harden. Because now that we've beaten Koga, Harden will also raise our speed by a little bit. And so combining that oversight with the fact that Pidgeot has Agility as Psychic move, and so it will just spam that, not only will we increase our defense, but until we level up, when the game realizes it made a mistake, we're going to increase our speed. There's a reason we call this Gen Fun. At this point, the battle is pretty much automatic, and that just is what it is. I'm not gaining any special yet. If I wanted to do that, I would need to beat Blaine, but I am gaining attack, so Body Slam is doing a crazy amount of damage. We do level up before Blastoise, but Blastoise doesn't have Hydro Pump yet. It just has Bubble, Bite, and Water Gun, all of which are pretty useless. So easy victory versus rival Fievel, but it took a lot of setting up to do. And I don't just mean the Hardens, I just mean we needed to do a lot of things to get to a situation where we could even use Harden in this manner. I'll talk about the Giovani 2 fight, even though there's really not much to say. The hardest Pokemon would be Kangaskhan, but it uses Rage, so it doesn't really do anything. And then Rhyhorn, we can use Mega Drain, and Nidoqueen. Actually, Nidoqueen probably is the most difficult Pokemon with Body Slam, but we got by it okay. We still have pretty good base HP and defense, and we're ready to either battle Sabrina or Blaine. Sabrina is obviously going to be the toughest challenge, so we're going to battle Blaine first. If you'll notice, there's not a lot of time passing between these splits because, frankly, there's not a lot of trainers we can even battle. Now, I could have battled the trainers in Blaine's gym, and I also could have set up badge boost glitch against the Growlithe. Instead, after Ponyta annoyed me, we set it up against the Rapidash. Unfortunately, Rapidash does have Growl, which is going to take away a lot of my attack. In the end, Body Slam is still stronger than Thunderbolt, and we get pretty lucky that it's a first try victory. Probably shouldn't have been, but hey, win's a win. Now it's time for everyone's favorite gym leader when you're using a poison Pokemon, Sabrina. And we get a critical hit against us immediately, and although we do knock out Kadabra in one hit, we're probably going to need a little bit more than like 11 health. So I go for Harden, trying to see if that would outspeed, but of course it's not going to. Even with all our stat experience, we're going to need many Hardens to outspeed Alakazam. There also aren't a ton of trainers for me to face if this goes badly. I fought the fighting dojo, and there's some trainers in this gym, but as you can see, I'm kind of just spinning my wheels, talking to chat really, and trying to think about what I need to do. The answer is win, baby, win. I mean, it's actually just a matter of getting Psychicked, and then Mr. Mime only has a 1 in 4 chance of actually going for an attacking move, and the hope is that by the time it does, we will have used enough Hardens to build up our speed and outspeed Alakazam. Little lucky, but didn't take too long, and now there's only one gym left. The final gym, which isn't going to be totally a joke with Mega Drain, because Nidoking and Nidoqueen, they aren't weak to Mega Drain, but they don't really have great moves in Red and Blue, so we should be fine. Keyword is should. Giovani leads off with Rhyhorn, and that's pretty good because we're not at full health. We can just use Mega Drain and knock it out. But here's a bit of an issue. Dugtrio has Dig, and that crits. So maybe we want to set up against the Rhyhorn. Let's try that again. So this time I use 2 Fury Attack, 3, another Fury Attack. Doesn't matter. Wow, 5 turns. All right, I'm just going to Mega Drain. Is this enough? Even if we don't... I could have hardened. Critical hit. Critical hit, of course, as you probably know, ignores my boosts. And those aren't badge boosts. Those are just regular defense boosts I was hoping would work. Unfortunately, they didn't. Okay, so this time we get a little bit more luck with Harden, where we don't get critical hit 5-turn Fury Attack. And so our defense is maxed. You can see nothing is happening. So now or never. If we get hit, it's not the end of the world, but we actually outspeed. Then we level up, but this actually isn't so bad. Now, we aren't going to do that much damage, but what can these things really do to us, since even after those 2 tail whips, we're +4 for Nidoking, and then against Rhydon, just 2 Mega Drains are all we need, and there's no badge boost there. Well, I guess there were a couple from the tail whips, actually, but yeah, pretty easy fight. But that's probably the last one. Now Grimer has to go through Rival 6 and the Elite Four. And while the Elite Four will be partially cheesed because of how badly they react to poison Pokemon, Rival 6 will also be cheesed for the exact same reason. We've already talked about this before, but now you're going to see it in action. The real question is, do our experience points line up? And what I mean by that is, do we level up before or after Alakazam? Because that's the one that's important. So I'm going to use all 6 Hardens, and then I go for Thunderbolt, knocks it out. Rhyhorn, Mega Drain, that's 2. Unfortunately, we cannot get a level up there. We're not going to one-shot Alakazam, and we're not going to outspeed it. In fact, we don't even one-shot the Execute, and it paralyzes us. We get hit by Solar Beam, and unless we get super lucky... Actually, we got really lucky. No. Okay. That would have been really cool, but what we're going to need to do here is either gain more experience points or use our badge boost later, which is actually a viable option. Unfortunately, past J-Rose was streaming and just didn't see that leveling up right before Growlithe meant I could have just used all my badge boosts versus Growlithe, since Pidgeot and Rhyhorn weren't threats, and it would have worked fine. Instead, I just gained the necessary experience points to be 1 level higher, and that means we don't level up in the middle of this battle, and it is just completely free. Which, frankly, for a pre-evolved Pokemon is totally fine, since it's going to be super difficult later anyway. we're probably going to have to level up quite a bit more. We have rare candies, but yeah, I don't think level 64 or 65 actually is going to be enough for Grimer, but I've been wrong before. I've been wrong a lot. So my first battle versus Lorelei, I try to do without using rare candies. Now, Dugong can only spam rest. Why? We've talked about this, but it's a psychic move and I poison type. This is going to come up a lot and is probably the biggest saving grace for poison Pokemon in red and blue. Now, even with all those boosts, we're not going to one-shot Dugong, but we do one-shot Cloyster, we two-shot Slowbro, and we one-shot Jinx with Body Slam, but unfortunately, we do level up here. Now, you might wonder why I'm not teaching Acid Armor, which is just, in theory, better Harden, and there's a reason for this. You probably already know, but clearly I'm going to need to level up prior to Lorelei. This isn't going to work. Unfortunately, again, shameless plug for my Twitch if you want to watch these runs live, I was talking and I was really engrossed in the conversation, so I completely forgot to level up with rare candies. And I get absurdly weird luck, even though I get bad luck in theory versus Cloyster, and I end up winning versus Lapras and using badge boost to kind of make things a little easier. But realistically, the reason we won is that Lapras missed with a Hydro Pump. This was a total mess, but it's not a big deal. Now against Bruno, all we have to do is Mega Drain his first Pokemon, and then we can Harden versus Hitmonchan and just badge boost our way to victory. The special stat on his Hitmon Pokemon are really weak, and as for Machamp, Mega Drain, Body Slam, all do about just under half, so it's going to be a 3 KO, and we make it to probably the most annoying trainer, Agatha. Even in modern Pokemon, Poison is a pretty bad type to use against Ghosts, or Ghost Poisoned, but in the case of Gen 1 Red and Blue Agatha with Dream Eater Hypnosis, it is even worse. So what I have to do is, I actually don't really know. I can use Thunderbolt. It's going to be a 4-hit KO. There really isn't a better move to use, and once we get put to sleep, the battle is over. So this is probably going to be the sticking point, and I anticipated it would be. Grimer's only physical attacks we could have even used is Sludge, which would have been double resisted, and Body Slam, which doesn't work. So we're going to have to go back into Victory Road and train a bit. However, and this is kind of why I didn't want to save after using rare candies, because it is more efficient to use them after doing all this training. I'm not really sure what even the strat for Agatha would be. I guess once we level up, maybe it'll come to me, but right now it's looking pretty not great. So I'm now at level 70, and the first two battles went better, and I'm just using Thunderbolt. It's a 4 KO, and I just need good luck, and we get good enough luck. We get a Hypnosis miss, and we don't hit ourselves in confusion. Against Golbat, I try to set up some badge boosts, but unfortunately, Haunter has other ideas putting me to sleep. I'm thankfully able to wake up before Dream Eater, and now my goal is to turn Thunderbolt into a 2 KO and outspeed Agatha's Pokemon. Unfortunately, I am still confused, and I hit myself in confusion a lot, but then Arbok swaps in, which is always a random chance of happening, and so I'm able to knock it out. I get greedy, trying to use Mega Drain, even though it's resisted, to try and gain a little bit of HP back. Remember, Nightshade from Gengar number 2 does 60 damage, so it's going to be a 2 KO, and I have to just go for Thunderbolt. I get a really clutch critical hit, I'm confused, I get Nightshaded, Super Potioned, and then Toxic. So we actually win. And that's cool because I'm sorry, we won. What? I can't believe it. That was our first try at level 70. I think this is over, guys. I think this is over. So the thing is, Lance really doesn't handle poison Pokemon well. We need to worry about Gyarados, for which we have Thunderbolt, and Aerodactyl, which only has normal moves, and we have really good defenses. This should be pretty easy, he said. Hydro Pump misses and we get a crit. That is absurdly good luck. Now we set up all our Hardens because Dragonair, Dragonair number 2, and Dragonite cannot attack me. They're just going to go for agility. We then one-shot Dragonair 1, we one-shot Dragonair 2, and we outspeed Aerodactyl. We have made it to the champion easy. Barrier can be an issue, but we have special moves. and we've pretty much been using the same moveset for a really long time. Despite the fact Grimer does not have a ton of moves, the moves it does have been useful, and I even forget to use an elixir, but we're going to battle the champion right now. So I go for a couple hardens, and then it goes for Sky Attack. I decide to get hit by the Sky Attack, and brutal, guys. Absolutely brutal. We start with 23 HP, but I have to be aggressive here. Alakazam is next, and we have to outspeed it. Is 4 hardens enough? No. It goes for Reflect, but then I get the clutchest critical hit I have ever gotten because the very next Pokemon is Rhydon, meaning I'm at half HP. I do level up, and remember, I didn't use all my badge boosts. So even though I'm getting hit by Takedown, remember, my defense boost is still in effect, and now I've gained a little bit more speed. I'm at 79 HP to Executor. Sludge would have been nice. We get a Paralysis. We're put to sleep. Stomp, 9 damage. 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 Hypnosis misses. And now it's all up to this. Do we one-shot Blastoise? Who cares? I'll go for Mega Drain. Hydro Bump misses. I go for Thunderbolt. And we two-shot. The luck in the last 2 battles was truly absurd. But it also kind of worked out for us, considering we got a critical hit Sky Attack against us. So, you know, both bad and good luck. Crazy battle there. And in the end, Grimer's time, while bad, is understandably so. Now, I have said oftentimes these runs are not meant to be scientific, hence it's a tier list and less a complete ranking. But the thing I think is absolutely, totally hilarious about the situation is that 2 poison Pokemon that are in theory very similar have nearly identical level in times. Grimer was just 7 minutes slower than Coughing. And again, considering that sometimes I make mistakes and go a little slow, that is nothing for a pre-evolved Pokemon in an over 7.5 hour run. Now, before I go, for those of you who've made it here, I have a lot of videos that I may want to release all at once. And one of the biggest reasons I didn't do that is because a lot of people aren't subscribed and they weren't seeing them. So if you want me to do that, please hit subscribe. The more subs I have, the more likely you are to see that daily content. And we're only about 3 months away from when I'd start releasing it. So no promises, but it's looking good, guys. Anyway, that's all for me. Take care.